point in time. So to kind of quickly run through the situation at Bath, there is a perception that universities shut on the 23rd of March. I'm sure all my colleagues will be happy to remind you that much like schools, we kept going. At Bath, we had about 650 students in our accommodation who were either unable to return home or who choose to stay in Bath because the situation here was probably better than wherever they could return to. We found particularly for students who were from widening participation backgrounds, the option to stay in Bath in university accommodation with access to wraparound support. We were providing 3 meals a day for our students in our accommodation. We've been obviously giving them access to the library, internet. They've obviously been able to access all the usual services like the student counselling service, and all of the kind of usual things you might expect online. So they've stayed, and we've obviously learned quite a lot from their experiences as to how to support students in a lockdown situation. And that's helped informed planning for the coming year. Some key things I think that we would recognise at this point in time. The university has obviously had to move very rapidly to providing online delivery. As we move into September in the new academic year, some of those features we will be retaining. It's highly likely that we will continue to have large group activity online, so recorded lectures and large group seminars, then supplemented by face-to-face teaching in small groups. At the moment, our assumption is that we will be probably aiming to provide something in the region of 4 to 6 hours direct contact with students, but that will creep up as social distancing changes and the carrying capacity for buses onto campus changes. I think the key thing I would say at this point in time is we've learned already that some of the large group teaching being done online is actually a better way to provide information if it's done properly than probably packing people into a lecture theatre and lecturing at them for 45 minutes. We found it particularly helpful for students who have English as a second language, and also students where they may have language learning disabilities or things like dyspraxia, where having to kind of take notes on the fly is actually quite a challenge. We've actually found fewer students requiring support as well in the way we've run assessment this year than in previous years, because the assessment has probably been in a more sympathetic format. So there's probably been some positive. There's very few silver linings from COVID-19, but one of the things I think we've found is that it's changed the way that we do things in a way that probably for some students is working much better than we were doing things previously. We've had a lot of experience already, as I said, around accommodation. The key proposal for Bath in the coming cycle is every student will have access to at least a wash basin in their room. That means that we'll have to reduce our accommodation capacity, probably only by about 5%. We won't have students in shared rooms. We had a small number of shared rooms, and we're actually putting some sinks into rooms that historically didn't have them. But our view is that it's really important for students' safety and security that we can at least allow them to wash their hands. A lot of our accommodation by now is en suite anyway, so we should be able to cope with most of our student needs on that score. We've had quite a bit of experience through the Students' Union in running kind of effectively a lockdown student experience. We had our student ball just last week, and we ran that fairly successfully online with DJ sets. Had people making mocktails and cocktails at home. We had quizzes, so we're reasonably confident we can do some form of student experience. And again, as lockdown restrictions might ease, that will give us more scope. And we are obviously a university that's well known for sport. So one of the things that we've already been able to do is get some of our elite athletes back. And that's given us a chance to work out how the sports system is going to work at the university. There's only about 3 sports I think we've identified where we're going to have some challenges. Rugby, if we're playing full contact martial arts, and rowing. It's quite challenging to socially distance in a boat. But I think everything else we're pretty confident we can get up and running on the sports side. Finally, you've some questions about confirmation and clearing. Applications to Bath for 2020 are looking good. We'd already had a good year for applications. They were up about 10% on average. We've had a very good conversion compared to last year. So the likelihood is clearing will be a very small activity, if at all, done for us. so it'll be probably the first couple of days. We're already starting to get results in. The IB results will come to us tonight. We've already had French students' results last week, so we're gradually starting to see students arrive. We're up about 700 requests on accommodation compared to the same point last year. So, like I said, I think we're reasonably confident we're going to be full. The big unknown question at the minute is international students and whether they'll be able to come because flights are prohibitively expensive. We are in consultation with a number of other Southwest England universities about running some flights from some key international destinations to support students. Just to finish this a little bit about 2021 entry. We've done quite a lot of work to support students in lockdown who are in year 12. We've got a range of programmes as part of our summer of outreach activities. We've moved all of our widening participation residential summer schools to online provision, and we are planning to continue to run them through the summer and then into October. So I'll make sure that Sue gets a link to the website, and there might be many of your students who are interested in some of the online activities we've got to help support applications for 2021. Thank you very much, and I'll stop there.
Great, Mike, thank you so much for that. I think if we just hear now from Mark from Bath University, and then people can ask questions of both Mark and Mike, or contribute anything you want to. Is that okay? So welcome, Mark. Thank you so much for coming along. Oh, your mic's off.
Yeah,
yeah, got you.
Rookie error at the beginning there. Good morning, everybody. Really, thank you for the invite today. This is a really good opportunity to share where we are, and actually much, as Mike said, much of what I'm about to tell you will echo the work that you've just heard about at the University of Bath. I have a presentation. I'm just working out how to share that on the screen. Have I got that on the screen yet?
Do you want to try in now? Yeah.
To share. Can you see it?
Not yet.
Shall I just talk us through it and then we can share it later?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I mean, yeah.
All right. Okay. So thank you. So my name's Mark McGuinness. I'm relatively new in post at Bath University. I'm Pro Vice Chancellor for Academic Planning, and admissions and student recruitment come under my lead responsibility, amongst other things. I'm an academic geographer by background, and I've worked in the region for just over 20 years, in fact, which makes me really old. Makes me feel that way anyway. So I haven't assumed that people know much about us because we are the smallest of the universities perhaps presenting today, and people may not know us quite so well. So just a few things about us. We offer the smaller scale, intimate, campus-based university experience. With about 7,500 students, predominantly undergraduate, just short of 1,000 staff supporting our community. If you've ever been to one of our campuses, you will know we have got some fantastic facilities, in particular our main campus, Newton Park, which sits between Bristol and Bath. Beautiful, green, open parkland campus owned by Prince of Wales, a long lease to us. And we've put some fantastic facilities in there to support student learning. Find out all about that on the website if you've not been to us before, including new 360 tours and so on. We're really proud also to say that we work with regional partners. UCW, Western are with us today, but we have a number of partnerships across the region. City of Bath, City of Bristol, New College Swindon. We're really proud of the work that we do there, taking higher education opportunities wherever they can benefit communities. So just to wrap up about who we are, I think what we offer is a very distinctive, smaller scale experience for students. If you as advisors have students who you feel you're worried about them getting eaten up by the machine, as it were, in a very large university environment, we're worth a look. We're quite small scale. We know the names of our students. We have some excellent support services. We've been doing this for decades and decades. So we're really good at supporting that wide range of abilities, and 1 in 5 of our students actually has declared a disability as well. So we do have a very long and deep experience of supporting that wide range of needs. Our curriculum is very applied, it's very contemporary. You can find out all about that on the website. Or just in brief, art and design subjects We're very deep, we cut very deep in that area. We've got a brand new campus on the Riverside, £35 million worth of investment sat idle at the moment during lockdown. That's making the Chief Operating Officer wince. But actually, we only opened that in October. Fantastic facilities for art and design subjects, full suite. Bath Business School is part of Bath Spa University, and here you can send students to enjoy broad business courses or very specific innovative courses such as fashion marketing, which is a real angle which is really growing at the moment. And we've just opened, just this year, successfully recruited to an LLB law program as well. So that's quite new for us, and we're really pleased with how that's gone. Creative industries is a big part of our footprint, especially publishing, television, computer games. That broad suite of the creative industries, very big in our region, and we're very well connected in that respect. If you've heard of us before, you might know about education courses. We are a very large PGCE provider. We have a network of 600 schools where we work with them to provide placements. But at undergraduate level, we offer 3+1 pathways to QTS for any of your students who may be thinking about teaching as a career. We do, of course, then offer the postgraduate options around PGCE. We work with schools and networks to provide skits. We also teach first contracted provider as well. Performing arts is another area that you may have us on your radar. Students who might be interested in drama, acting, music, dance, all of that. With some excellent facilities in and around the city, including at our Newton Park campus. Humanities, the social sciences, you'll find in most universities, we have them too. My background, as I say, is as a human geographer, so I'm happy to talk more about that if you want me to. And one area where you perhaps don't know we have decent and very substantial provision in some cases is in the psychological and environmental sciences. So we have a full suite there. We don't do healthcare, we don't do hard sciences, we don't do engineering, those kinds of things. We're very much on the arts, humanities, social sciences end, but we do have substantial science provision in psychology and environment. Worth noting as well that every course that we offer, every single course that we offer is available to students in professional placement year mode. That means that they do a 4-year course with 1 year in industry. And that's every course, including our combined awards. That's increasingly popular. Now, for the rest of the presentation, I'll just go through the questions that we've been asked to talk about. So it's consistent, hopefully, with what you hear from my colleagues. First question, starting dates. Well, as Mike has already indicated, there's a lot to talk about this, so how will we deliver? But one thing that we were quite keen to establish early on is when we would start to deliver, and we are keeping to our original plans, which is to do registration weekend for new students as planned on the 19th and 20th of September. And semester 1 will commence on the 21st of September. Those are our advertised dates, and we believe we can keep to those. So in that respect, unless the situation changes dramatically between now and September, we expect things to run pretty much as normal. Delivery, on the other hand, will be different because we have to take account of a number of government guidelines already hinted at. And the detail is now being worked out by our colleagues in academic schools. As Mike hinted, they have really speeded this work up in the last few weeks. We are doing this on a course-by-course basis because we recognise that access to physical teaching may be different for, let's say, an actor in our BA acting course. It might be different there to how it might be in our BA business and management programme. So this is being developed with staff and with student input to do this safely and to ensure that the specialist facilities that we're renowned for are available safely to underpin the student experience. So just like you will find, I'm sure, with all the other institutions that you hear from today, it's a balance between physical and online delivery, particularly in semester 1. We are where we need to really underpin that student experience. We will emphasise face-to-face contact where that's absolutely essential. And we'll do that on a course-by-course basis. We do already know that large lectures will be delivered live within our virtual learning environment. We use Blackboard, which is very common. And as Mike has already said, we've actually found through the surveys that we've done with our students that whilst we might have worried about them not being in the same room as us, actually we find a large number of them prefer it. They prefer it because they can watch it again, they can replay bits that they missed. We can also, inside the virtual learning environment, we can support breakout groups, we can support tutor-student conversations and even peer interactivity. So it's not just like watching YouTube, it's much more interactive. The students are really getting a lot from that. Library, wellbeing and careers support will be fully available to students. That will be in that same mixed physical and online mode. We'll prioritise it where it needs to be face-to-face and will be socially distanced, but we'll use telephone support and we'll use online mechanisms wherever we're able to do that to keep people safe. And the same applies to our Students' Union, where sports and societies that are organised through the Students' Union, they will be in that mixed mode as well. So lots of planning going on at present. Accommodation. So we operate an accommodation guarantee for all first years. We are a campus-based experience. We have about 900 students live on our Newton Park campus, and there's around 1,000 beds in the city in various locations. We're extending our accommodation guarantee to clearing applicants this year. We feel we can do that, and we feel it will be an appropriate thing to do this year given the turbulence in the sector. There's a range of options available. Most of our accommodation already is en suite. Most of it is, and we are taking some where it's not en suite, and we do have concerns around social distancing. We're taking that out, just as you heard earlier from the University of Bath, but that is only a very small proportion, a few percent. We've got rents that suit all budgets, and we have stuff in the city centre for those who want to be near the buzz of the city. Those who want the more quiet, tranquil environment, we've got, I say, 900 spaces out in our Parkland campus at Newton Park. All campuses are safe, 24/7 security, CCTV and so on. Our grade requirements, our standard offer this year was CCC or equivalent. We are notching that up by a couple of notches next year to BBC to CCC, depending on the course, but this year it will be CCC. We recognise a full range of qualifications. Mature learners, we're particularly welcome to work with them around through access courses. APEL is something that we will discuss as well. And just to reassure you as advisors, we absolutely understand that this cycle is like no other, and we will be taking the time to look at individual circumstances, to look at those references, those personal statements. We may even pick up the phone and talk to people like you, or indeed the applicants directly, to ensure that we recognise the circumstances this year being very, very different to anything we're used to. We are also extending a £750 academic scholarship to all clearing applicants. This is to motivate and to recognise academic achievement. And I'd just like to say just highlight one thing for you there. It is as you would expect for those who achieve high grades, A, B. But one thing that we recognise is the wide range of abilities, and actually we will give the same scholarship to any student who beats their predicted grades by one point. So if you were predicted CCC and you got BCC, you would be awarded the same excellence scholarship. It's wherever you as advisors place them in terms of the predicted grades. If they can beat that, then we will give them that scholarship. On to clearing in 2020. I expect to be in a position, we're just working this out at the moment, but I expect to be in a position to offer places on most undergraduate courses, some more than others. We're just working through our capacities at the moment in relation to social distancing requirements, but I expect the majority, if not almost all, to be in clearing. Our admissions and applicant support team is already available. You can find it on our landing page and the website. Will take you through to priority clearing, where applicants can register. We can give them early information, give them a call on the day if that's appropriate. If you want to find out more about us, and if your students want to come and have a look, we do offer, we already did, and we will be reintroducing from the 20th of July, so just a couple of weeks' time, single household guided tours of our campuses of Newton Park and Locksbrook for people just to come and have a look around. Now that's single household, obviously to cope with pandemic requirements, and we will meet them, we will take them around our campuses, and we will show them so they can get a feel of the place and find out if it's somewhere that's right for them. We can also offer all applicants a telephone conversation with a member of the academic team that deliver the course if they want to find out a bit more from someone who actually teaches on the course. We do also have on the website, we have Unibuddy, where Unibuddy, if you're familiar with it, if you're not familiar with it, you can talk to a current student either on that course or a course closely aligned to it to find out more from a student perspective as well. And that's already available. For all of our tours, you do need to pre-book. And just finally, we will hold open days up to 2021. We will be holding an open day in the autumn. That's on Wednesday, the 16th of September. And that is intended for 2021 applicants. We are currently working out what that means, an open day with social distancing and all the other requirements we'll need to put in place. But we do believe we'll be delivering that day with a physical element. Any applicants for 2020 could, of course, book onto that event if they did want to come and have a look before joining us the following weekend. So we can offer all of those ways of coming to meet us, and I hope that's useful to your students. And just to conclude, can I thank all of you as advisors for staying with your students through this very, very turbulent time. I've spoken to plenty of our applicants. They are very anxious. Thank you for the work you're doing to reassure them. Thanks, Lee.
Thank you so much. Oh, wait a minute. I think maybe we got more than one mic on, so I don't know if. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, thank you so much for that. It's really useful to have those roundups of what's been happening. So it'd be good now. It's an opportunity for you to ask a question of Mike or Martin. I think if you put your hand up, and you could do that in that sort of bar that's halfway down the page, there's a little hand. If you put your hand up, then I can actually call you in to ask your question rather than everybody put their mics on. Shall I go to you first, Louise, to see if anything's come through chat that you want to ask about? You need to put your mic on.
Hey.
Thanks. Oh, it's gone again. Your mic's gone again. That's it. Oh, it came back briefly then.
So, Louise, you've posted this question in the chat, have you? Is this about buses?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can have a go at answering it, and hopefully we'll get the answer rather than try to sort your mic out. Yeah, we're working very closely with First Bus, and I know Mike is as well, to try and work out a timetable which works for the buses. The social distancing requirements on public transport are very stringent. Even the reduction of social distancing to 1 metre plus doesn't provide significant additional capacity. So our response to this is to go for a timetabling approach. I'm sure this is the same with Mike. We're going to have staggered start times and end times at the beginning and end of the day. We are also investing quite heavily in a suite of electric bikes to get people in and out of campuses very quickly. I'm going to have a go myself. And we are also where we are able to, and it's to a very significant extent we will extend the working from home opportunities for our service teams to reduce the demand on public transport into campus and keep teams working off-site while these conditions remain, so that any capacity that is there is prioritised for students.
Right. Do you want to add anything to that, Mike?
Similar sort of issue, I think. Obviously, we will be trying, I think, to minimise the amounts of visits to campus that students have to do. So again, part of the technique will be timetabling in a way that students are in for block periods of time and then go again, rather than sort of an hour here and an hour here and an hour here. I think, again, the other thing that we would recognise is, for anybody who's ever visited the Bath campus, a lot of the challenge is getting parked if you have access to a car. And I think, again, we'll be looking to see how we can minimise the need for people to come into campus if they're not needing to and park up, and that might free up quite a bit of space if we can get that working effectively.
I think it's fair to say university timetablers are enjoying a measure of job security that's unprecedented.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that, because I actually live in Oldfield Park, and the queues for the buses sometimes are sort of 100 metres long. So it would be great if to think there was some University of Bath staff that could be actually near the bus stops at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, to kind of make sure that, especially near Hayesfield School, where we do have a lot of students, and down by Broomhays, you've got a lot of people walking to work, where to actually check it's actually working first thing, at the beginning of term, because often the students are so keen to go in, which is great, but there's often huge queues. So that's my kind of concern, really, is making sure there's social distancing with those queues and the buses, because you're doing a great job at the university, but we obviously need to think about the travel to the uni too. So thank you for that.
Okay, does anybody else want to ask a question? Or put your hands up, or you can put your mics on, as we haven't got a big rush at the moment.
I have another question, Sue. I'm sorry, if anyone else has got one, please chip in. My question is to, is it Mark, from Bath Spa? Yeah. It's about the courses like dance and music and singing, which require obviously maybe collaborative working or being in the same space or using instruments and things. I'm just wondering, what can we tell young people about how those courses might work this year?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Louise. Those are particularly challenging for us. So reference my earlier comments that we have a full 5-stage post-lockdown plan, and we're mapping every single course to those 5 steps. I would anticipate that we would be minimising, particularly in semester 1, what we might consider non-COVID safe activities, simply to ensure that we don't bring any young people into risk or risk of transmission. So we'll be doing that through smaller scale and a use of smaller groups in the large spaces that we have to manage that through a social distancing arrangement. Clearly, some things will just have to wait. I think that the priority number 1 for everybody in the room today has to be safety, and we will do everything we can to keep people safe first and foremost. We have created a timetable, or we're in the process of creating a timetable which gives those courses more space than they currently have to facilitate greater social distancing, so more studio space. We're also not running some courses that we would otherwise run. So there's one particular postgraduate course that this year we won't run, because that will mean that the facilities that would otherwise be in use can become available to the undergraduate experience. So we're taking some difficult decisions within our business and losing business, but priority number 1 has to be to keep people safe. So this will all be confirmed before confirmation of places. As you're probably aware, the Office for Students and the Office of the Independent Adjudicator have made it clear to universities that they expect all this to be available before people finally accept their places, and that will be the case.
It's probably worth adding, Sue, obviously University of Bath, very few creative courses like dance and acting, but we do obviously have a lot of lab-based courses. We've already got half a dozen research groups back into the university, and they're effectively testing out the ways that we can do social distancing for laboratory-based work. One of the big advantages, by the way, of not having to schedule lectures is it frees up an awful lot of timetable space, so you can then run multiple events through the day because you're not having to block out the lecture period. So I think that's the other thing that a lot of universities will be taking advantage of. Smaller groups probably running multiple times.
Great. Okay. Any other last-minute questions of Mike?
There's a question in the chat from Andy. That was, has either Mike or Mark seen any evidence that more students are choosing to live from home whilst attending a local uni?
I've seen prior to this year even, I think there's been a greater, certainly with our population, we have high proportions of our students are from WP, widening participation backgrounds. As the costs of living away from home have increased, many more students are staying local. I do expect that to increase as a result of the current pandemic.
I would say we're not seeing that at all. As I said, we were about 750 students up on accommodation compared to last year. Possibly something to do with the generosity of our bursaries for students from low-income households. Students who are applying to Bath whose household incomes under 25k get between £3,000 and £5,000 a year as a grant, effectively, on top of their student loan. So that, I think, it offsets a lot of the cost of the accommodation that students might have. Bath is not a cheap place, as anybody who lives here knows. One final thing, Sue, might be worth saying. There's been a lot of stuff in the press about deferrals and students deferring. We have seen no evidence of that this year. We are actually slightly better off compared to last year, and the real shift is, whilst we've had quite a few students who are deferring or want to defer, we've had many more students who would have normally deferred now asked to start in 2020 rather than wait till 2021 because the gap year plans have fallen through. So that certainly seems to be now borne out by some of the statistics that UCAS are putting out nationally as well.
Yeah, it's happening with us as well, that much more people bringing their plans forward is what we're seeing.
That's interesting, actually, to hear that, isn't it? Because there have been some rumours that students are choosing not to come, but that actually tells us that that's not quite the case in your instance. That's really useful.
Ask us again in September, Sue.
Okay.
Sorry, this is Melanie. Can I say something, Sue?
Yeah, of course.
It's interesting as well because a lot of the year 12s I'm speaking to now have expressed concern about the fact that they think their year will be massively oversubscribed because they read in the media about all the deferrals. So that's interesting, helpful information to have for year 12s as well.
Sue, it might be worth just saying as another thing for students to think about, it may have slipped people's attention. Last week, the government announced that for 2021 entry, European Union nationals will count as overseas for fee payers. They will lose the right to any financial support from the British government. There isn't a separate fee category for EU students. They will default to the overseas rate. So I would also assume that that will help mitigate if there is any sign that students are planning to defer for till 2021. There's probably going to be a lot fewer EU applicants applying to UK universities in 2021, which will certainly free up some spaces in some courses.
It's useful to be able to feed back to students, I think. Okay, so we've got 1 more minute before we move on to one of the other universities. If anybody's got a last minute question, you can put your hand up or you could just put your mic on.